Hey everyone, Johnny here. Don't speak news. News we're not supposed to speak about. And before we get into the next segment, we're going to talk about funding for May into June of this year. Yesterday, Monday, the 19th, I had to borrow funds in order to keep the internet turned on. And so we're having this fundraiser for the end of the month because we have other utilities such as electric that needs to stay on as well. We also need some food and, need to pay a few other bills too. Internet security, Microsoft Office, all these things. And so this will be funding that'll get us into June, and then we'll have to do some more fundraising about the middle of June. So here it is, 1,034 is the goal based on what I've taken in so far this month. And don'tspeaknews.com needs your support. If God has laid it on your heart and you want to contribute, please prayerfully consider donating to this ministry. And if you cannot gift a monetary donation, that's no problem. Then please donate your fervent prayers to keep this ministry going. Thank you, and may God bless you. And that's it. I'm just making the need known, and that is all I'm doing. And now I'm moving on to the news at hand for this segment. New World Order, the Club of Rome and its 10 kingdoms. Guys, this right here, this map that you're looking at, and we'll take a closer look at it in a minute. This map that you're looking at is essentially what the elites want to turn the world into, is 10 different regions that they can govern accordingly. And of course, the Antichrist will be at the head of all this, which we know, or at least, I believe is Donald Trump, as everybody here should know. And if you don't, well, I've been saying it since 2018. Anyway, the 10 kingdoms of the New World Order are present-day economic unions in international or world trade. The first known list was proposed in 1973 by the Club of Rome. And so here we have the 10 different regions. And now if you take a look at Canada, it looks like they're joined up with the United States, doesn't it? Same thing up here with Greenland. They're not part of the EU, like Iceland is, which is right here. That's Iceland. Greenland is part of the North American Union. And then we have South America and Mexico together. I mean, there's different maps, and there's different versions of this map that you can look at. But for the most part, this sums it up quite well. So, the following list is proposed, subject to change, of course, based on current existing union since 2018, and then listed in similar order to the 1973 outline. I'll let you look at these for yourselves. I put all 10 of them up here that were listed in the research I've been doing. Now, the Club of Rome is a global think tank that deals with a variety of international political issues. It was founded in 1968 at David Rockefeller's estate in Bellagio, Italy. But the organization moved its headquarters to Winterthur, Switzerland in 2008. The Club of Rome describes itself as a group of world citizens sharing a common concern for the future of humanity. Yes, and they also believe in limiting population growth and, depopulation, actually. If you look at the old Georgia Guidestones and keeping the population at 500 million people, that's essentially the Club of Rome on the Georgia Guidestones. Okay, that's them. Or at least, if it wasn't them officially, that all the Georgia Guidestones holds all of their current positions. So let's take a look now at this map a little bit closer. As you can see, we've already talked about Canada and Greenland being part of the US, but look at Russia. Look how it swallows up Mongolia. Look how it swallows up Ukraine. And looks like maybe even Eastern Europe is going to be part of the pie, pieces of the pie for Russia. Quite possibly could be. But you see, this plan here is why Ukraine will eventually cease to exist, and I think very soon. Take a look at this. This is Medvedev from Russia. He said this is the last chance for Ukraine to preserve statehood. But I think he knows, too, that they're not going to be able to do that because of the plans that all the elites have. And maybe he's not in on the plan. Maybe he's not high level enough, but I would bet he is. Now, the deputy chairman of Russia's Federation Council, Senate, said today Ukraine has a last chance to preserve some sort of statehood after the Russia-Ukraine conflict ends. Presumably, he means that they must agree to Russia's terms at the coming negotiations, thereby suggesting they won't exist as a state anymore if they don't. And that's true, based on the Club of Rome model especially. So, thereby suggesting they won't exist anymore. Okay, we read that. Apparently, Russia has finally grown weary of Zelensky sabotaging peace efforts with his big mouth, which is what he's being paid to do. That's what Zelensky is. He's a paid stooge, and he's addicted to cocaine besides. Look at look at his behaviors over the years. It seems the most skilled observers that time is running out for Ukraine, and indeed, it is. Look at the map. Now we'll go back down here to where we were. So the Club of Rome brought global considerations to public attention in 1972 with its report, The Limits to Growth. The club states that its mission is to act as a global catalyst for change through the identification and analysis of the crucial problems facing humanity and the communication of such problems to the most important public and private decision makers, as well as to the general public. They state on their website that the individual crises are, in fact, driven by many of the same root causes. Values not aligned with the crisis we are facing, and an antiquated belief system, an outdated economy, outdated institutions, and inadequate delivery mechanisms. In other words, our religion is an antiquated belief system, and our churches are outdated institutions. Yes, they all believe in transhumanism for the most part and world government for another part. So in that report, The Limits to Growth, it warned that if growth rates seen between 1900 and 1972 were to continue, humanity would overstep planetary boundaries sometime between 2000 and 2100, which of course means population control, birth control, abortion. They believe that over the next 40 years, the world population is likely to grow close to 7 billion to 9.5 billion people, with a corresponding increase in demand for energy, land, water, and food. They assume that the population will level off at around 9.5 billion in 2045. But even before this report was published, Edward Pestel, Miaho Mesarovic of Case Western Reserve University had begun work on another model, which distinguished 10 world regions for governance. As a Christian, I believe these 10 world regions could be the 10 kingdoms of the beast, the Antichrist, and Revelation, and that we should watch carefully the developments of this institution. I agree. This is what Revelation says about the 10 kingdoms. I'm not going to read it all here, but it begins in verse 7. We're going to skip down here to the highlighted part. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 more rulers, which haven't gotten their place of rule yet, but they will get power as rulers for 1 hour with the creature. These will all have one mind and will give their power and strength to the creature or the beast. This is worded a little bit different. They must have used a different translation. These will fight against Christ, the Lamb, but the Lamb will overcome them, who is the Savior of saviors and the ruler of rulers, and those who are with the Christ are called, chosen, and faithful. So now we skip down here to, of course, Revelation 17 parallels Daniel 7, which describes the 10 kingdoms in this way. And it talks about the 10 horns. The 10 horns are the 10 kings who shall arise from this kingdom, and another shall arise after them. He shall be different from the first ones, and shall subdue 3 kings. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High, which he's already doing. This is Trump this is talking about. Shall persecute the saints of the Most High, which we're starting to see now, and shall intend to change times and law, which we see going on right now. What's Trump doing? What's he doing but ruling by decree and eviscerating what was remaining of the Constitution, which wasn't much? And he's been doing that since March 13th of 2020, when he signed that emergency order, giving him all that power. The Constitution was dead and buried at that point, what was left of it. So he shall intend to change times and law, then the saints will be given into his hand for a time and times and half a time. And I believe we're about closing in on the end of that time. So this research had the full support of the Club of Rome, and its final publication, Mankind at the Turning Point, was accepted as the official second report to the Club of Rome in 1974. The second report gave a better prognosis for the future of the environment, noting that many of the factors were within human control and that most environmental and economic catastrophes were preventable. The website states that the root causes of the crises we are witnessing rest on outmoded theoretical concepts, values, and institutions. The remedy lies in the formulation of a new theory appropriate to the radically different conditions of the 21st century. Indeed, they are radically different. And they're going to be, wow, are they ever going to be radically different as we go into this singularity, as they call it, right? This transhumanist movement. Back then, I don't know if they were thinking about AI in 1973, but they certainly are now. And that's where the remedy lies, according to them. So now it assumes This report assumes that mankind can evolve and save itself. Think about that for a second. Mankind has been trying to do that for 6,000 years. Save itself, evolve and save itself. And it fails miserably every single time. Now we're going into their so-called golden age, or the dawning of the age of Aquarius, right? And it's going to fail again. But this time it's at the end of the age. And this time Jesus Christ, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, is coming back. And this time it'll be over. It'll be done. And then we will finally achieve true peace on the earth, which cannot be achieved without Jesus Christ. So all this talk about peace, security, prosperity, safety, yeah, sudden destruction follows that. Sudden destruction will come sooner than a lot of people think, I believe. Anyway, they view the future as an evolutionary opportunity to break with outmoded ideas, values, and institutions, and they believe that they can provide the essential conditions for the rapid transition to a more peaceful, prosperous, equitable, and sustainable future. Boy, does that sound like today or what? In 1993, the club published the first global revolution. And according to this book, divided nations require common enemies to unite them. Does that sound familiar? Either a real one or else one invented for the purpose. Because of the lack of traditional enemies, new enemies must be identified. Yeah, such as the global war on terror after the Cold War ended, right? In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill, and they do to a point. But they still got to have war for the military-industrial complex. But all these dangers are caused by human intervention. That's what they say, and it's only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. That's what the Club of Rome says. In 2009, the organization established a 3-year program, a new path for world development, which declared the global issues which were the focus of the 1972 report, limits to growth, are even more severe and urgent today. The project has 5 issue areas: environment and resources, globalization, international development, social transformation, and get this, peace and security. Wow. Is the Bible ever accurate or what? When they cry peace and safety or peace and security, then sudden destruction comes. The social transformation issue is one area that concerns me. This cluster relates social change, gender equity, values and ethics, religion and spirituality, culture, identity, and behavior. It states that the values and behavior on which the present path of world development is based must change if peace and progress are to be preserved within the tightening human and environmental limits. So, the changes in values, ethics, religion, and spirituality are to move us to a one world government and religion, which they believe will sustain us in the future. They state that entire sets of beliefs and behavior have become outdated and counterproductive and need to be replaced by new thinking and new approaches. While they believe mankind has the ability to evolve and save itself through global government control, the only government and religion that can and will sustain humanity is going to be led by Jesus Christ and his 1,000-year reign. And I agree wholeheartedly. And I just got done saying it, right? But guys, this is why the Antichrist Donald Trump is pushing so hard for Canada to become a U.S. state, along with Greenland becoming a U.S. territory, at the very least. Trump can say taking Greenland as a territory is about national security all that he wants, but it's not true. He is doing the bidding of his masters, and that includes putting Canada and Greenland in the North American Union. This is also why you won't see Ukraine exist as a state for much longer, as the map shows them as a part of Russia along with some of the former Soviet republics. In fact, this is coming true as I'm typing this blog because the deputy chairman of Russia's Federation Council, or their Senate, said today that Ukraine has the last chance to preserve some sort of statehood after the Russia-Ukraine conflict ends. And like I said, Ukraine isn't going to last much longer, as Medvedev here says. And remember, he's also a former president of Russia. He took over for 4 years, or was it 5? I don't remember. In the mid-2000s, when Putin had to essentially resign for a term, and then he could come back again later. So that's what happened there. But he is a voice that should be listened to inside of Russia, as he's got the ear of Vladimir Putin. And there we go. I hope now you have a better understanding about what the Club of Rome is, what it stands for, and why the U.S. is going to take Canada and Greenland eventually at some point, and why Russia is going to take over Ukraine, possibly Mongolia, and possibly some former Soviet republics as well. Lithuania, the Baltics. We'll see. And this is constantly evolving and changing, and their wish list, may not completely get filled, but this is the idea that they've had. And it goes right along with Daniel 7 and Revelation 17. And that will be it for now. And of course, we're right here on the website, don'tspeaknews.com, home base for everything that we do. So if you'd like to subscribe, click on this tab here, and all the ways to subscribe are underneath that tab. Channel supports here, Rumble and BitChute and Telegram are all right here. All the links to find us around the interwebs. And that'll be it for now. God bless, take care. Johnny Storm, Don't Speak News.